ReNew Power has become the first Indian company to be listed as with a SPAC on the Nasdaq. It's being listed with the symbol RNW. Sumant Sinha, the guy who started ReNew Power, will of course go down in history books for this one, and he's joining us on the big day, the day of the listing. Sumant Sinha, thank you so much for taking the time out for ET Now on your big day. I don't know if it's a cosmic connection, but the fact is that ReNew Power is getting listed on Nasdaq the same day as the first Indian company that did, and it hit $100 billion in market capitalization. I'm of course talking about Infosys. Do you believe in these kind of cosmic coincidences?
Well, Nayantara, even if I don't, I would much rather want to believe in them, because going down that path of becoming such a large-size company is something that we would definitely like to emulate. Of course, it'll take us many, many years, but absolutely, it would be terrific for us to be able to achieve that.
Okay, so now, like I said, ReNew Power is going to be listed as with the symbol RNW, is the first Indian company, taking the SPAC route. So Sumant Sinha, you completely bypass what others are waiting for, direct overseas listing and all of that. Have you taught your peers in industry how it's done? Have you been getting phone calls and things like that?
No, thankfully not, because I think it's a very specific thing. It depends upon every individual company, their legal domicile, their tax position, where their investors are based out of. And so every company will have to do their own diligence to find, in fact, whether they are eligible, whether they can do a listing overseas or not. Going through a SPAC path is just another way to get a listing, but all the things that need to be in place have to be in place regardless of whether you do a direct listing or a listing through a SPAC. So it's something that every individual company has to look at. But yes, there is a tremendous amount of interest now about seeing whether, in fact, other companies can get to the markets outside of India as well.
And what kind of evaluation will, till opening bell, will ReNew Power be commanding, and how much money will come into the company?
Well, when we announced our transaction, that was at a valuation, post-money valuation of about $4.5 billion or thereabouts. Of course, time will tell where the trading level settles down at and where it goes. But in terms of the money that we're going to raise, we'll be raising about $700 million of gross proceeds. And between that capital and the cash that we already have on our balance sheet, we'll have more than $1 billion of cash sitting with us. And of course, as you know, we are a business that generates cash flows as well. And so over the next several years, we'll generate cash. And between the cash on hand and the cash we'll generate in the future, that fully funds us from an equity standpoint to go from our current capacity of about 10 gigawatts to about 18.5 gigawatts by 2025. So we hope to get to 18.5 gigawatts of commissioned capacity by 2025, which will then take our EBITDA number up to about $1.7 billion.
Now, it's very apparent in recent times that you're looking at forward integration, that you want to be a fully integrated renewable company, whether it is from manufacturing in Gujarat or the acquisition of a hydropower asset from L&T. And now you're going to have $1 billion in your balance sheet. Tell us what to expect in, let's say, the next 12 to 18 months.
Well, that's a great question, Nayantara. You are right. We'll keep looking at our business model at all points in time, because it's very important for us in a competitive market that we operate in a market where technology is changing so rapidly, where regulations are changing so rapidly. It's very important to have a nimble and flexible strategy. And the Indian market is a large market, but it's an individual bespoke market. And therefore, the strategies that you have to come up with have to be tailored to the context within which we are operating. And that is why when the Indian government says that they want to encourage manufacturing capacities in India, it makes sense for companies like ours to backward integrate into manufacturing. Equally, we all know that there are going to be grid management issues in the future. Therefore, it makes sense for us to combine with hydro assets to see if we can manage the intermittency of our output. So I think those are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking at. We'll also be looking at other acquisition opportunities to see what makes sense for us to do. And we'll, of course, continue with our regular bidding process. But having that fully end-to-end integrated business model is, to my mind, very critical to survive and to do well and thrive in a market like India. So that's what we've been building over the years.
You know, you're getting listed on the Nasdaq now. You're going to be considered a global company, right? So, are you going to go beyond India as well, or do you think that India is just so massive and so large, it's going to take up all of ReNew Power's time and energy?
Well, Nayantara, it's a bit of both, frankly. I think for the near term, we'll continue to focus on the Indian market and continue to cement our leading position in the market in India, especially now with the listing and with access to global investors and to a deep market. I think it gives us the flexibility and the instrumentality to do some very interesting and exciting things potentially in the future. So therefore, we'll continue to focus on the Indian market in the near term. But longer term, I think just the fact that we are now the 10th largest renewable energy company in the world in terms of total capacity, the fact that we have the expertise that we do, the fact that the energy transition is happening everywhere in the world, it does, in some ways, therefore, does create the opportunity for us to look at markets outside India as well. So I can't say when we'll do that, but it is something that we'll certainly consider and evaluate very seriously.
And inorganic growth, like you already alluded to it, now you've got a big war chest, right? So do you have a deal pipeline too?
We look at opportunities at all points in time, and should something interesting come up, we'll certainly explore it seriously. I can't say that we have something specific lined up at this point in time, but certainly we'll look at whatever opportunities arise in the market. And should something make sense, we'll definitely evaluate it very seriously as well. And look, our growth is going to be a mix of both organic and inorganic. That's something
at
that
this
we
juncture,
maintain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in recent times, you've been quite vociferous, for example, the way we had seen previous auctions and all of that go. In recent times, the kind of policy moves that have been coming out, when renewables is hot, green energy is hot, ESG is the biggest buzzword that you have. Is the Indian government making the right moves at the moment?
I would say by and large, yes, they are. And that's very heartening to see. The energy transition is a massive opportunity. It's a massive requirement, but it is equally going to create very large-sized companies in the future that eventually and over time can develop and evolve their own unique business models and can become true global champions. I truly believe that India has that opportunity at this point in time. And therefore, the energy transition is extremely exciting, and I think we are very well positioned now to capitalize on the growth that will emerge in the sector that we operate in. The Indian government, I think, has been a very supportive partner for us and has put out the right kinds of policies. Of course, there's always some degree of tweaking that is possible here and there. But nevertheless, I think in general, the government of India has actually been very proactive in creating this sector and leading it to become one of the largest in the world.
I know this is a really, really wild question, but when we also talk about green energy, one does think of electric vehicles, right? Will ReNew Power ever do anything in the EV space, whether it's charging stations or anything else, and you want to be a fully integrated player too?
Yeah, we might. It's a sector that we are certainly looking at. I don't know exactly what we could do in that sector yet. Because it's a large sector, it's evolving rapidly. So we'll have to think about it. We'll have to evaluate opportunities in the space and then decide what is, if any, the best way forward for us in that space.
Like I said, you'll go down in history for being the first Indian company taking the SPAC route for listing on the Nasdaq. Sumant Sinha, before I let you go, you've also said it's not for every company to go down this route. So for all those that are tuning in, the entrepreneurs, the founders, the companies, when does it make sense?
I think you have to get to a certain minimum size and scale. And Number two, keep in mind that doing a SPAC is just an alternative way to get listed. And so what every company should evaluate is whether it makes sense to do a regular way IPO or whether it makes sense to go to to become listed through a SPAC. We happen to choose the latter method because of the time when we were looking at this whole opportunity of getting listed. SPACs seem to be a very interesting way to go. But having said that, markets are volatile, and therefore the attractiveness of SPACs does go up and down in the market. And so any company should consider their choices very seriously before deciding on which is the right way forward.
Sumant Sinha, of course, this SPAC route that you've taken, there's a slight bit of star power in it as well, because Chamath, who made it popular globally. Anything you want to tell us? What was his advice to you? Is he going to be involved? How is he going to pan out?
No, not really. I think he's an investor in our pipe, and I've had a couple of conversations with him. But that is all. And I would hope that we bring more star power even over and above.
Okay.
Of course, being one of our investors.
I only meant star power as far as SPACs go, because that was what I meant. But you're, of course, the star that's listing on the Nasdaq today. And thanks a lot, Sumant Sinha, for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now on your big day. Congratulations. And all the best.
Thank you, Nayantara. Thank you so much.